Hello everyone, welcome back. So in today's lesson we're going to move on to a new topic. So as you already know, we've just did the topic test. So now we're going to learn something new, and it's going to be a little bit more challenging as it's a topic which you probably have not learned much in detail. But it's basically about circles and cylinders. Now I know that you know what these two shapes are, but the questions that they can ask you in relation to these shapes have not been introduced. So let's just get started. So we're going to look at chapter 8 from the Oxford, the Insight Mathematics book. So let's get started. Now I'm just going to start by introducing different parts of a circle. So the first important word that you have to know is called a circumference. Now this is a very important word. What this word means is basically the perimeter of a circle. Okay, so in circles we don't use the term perimeter, we use circumference. So you can see this purple line. This is the circumference of a circle. The next word up is called an arc. Now an arc is basically a part of a circumference. Okay, so you can see that this is a portion of the outer line of the circle, right? So that's what an arc is. Next one, semicircle. This one I probably expect you to already know. This is just half of a circle. As you can tell, semicircle is half a circle. Center. Now the center of a circle is basically, well, the center, but to be more technically correct, it's the point inside the circle which is equidistant from all points on the circle. Now what that means is this. If I draw a circle, all right, this is my terrible drawing of a circle, and this is the center. Now what this center is, it's a point inside the circle that's equidistant from all points on the circle. So if I pick a point, say here, right? This is a point that's on the circle. This distance should equal to this distance, okay? So if I pick a point A and I pick a point B, the distance to the center should be equal. So that's another definition of the center. Basically, this point, the center, is equal distance to all the points on the circumference. So I draw another line here, another line there, another line here. All these distances should be the same. So that's indicated by that line. Okay, this is also a very important word that you have to know, the radius. The radius is an interval drawn from the center of the circle to the circumference. So basically, it's basically the distance between the center and the edge of a circle, if you can think of it that way. An interval drawn from the center of the circle to the circumference. So just remember, the ones that are circled are the important words: circumference, radius. Diameter is also an important word. Diameter is basically a line that passes through the center that divides a circle in half. So you see, you have a semicircle, right? Now this line that cuts the circle in half, that's called a diameter. And for those of you that are more curious, a diameter is 2 times the length of the radius, which makes sense, right? Because radius is the line drawn from the center to the circumference, right? So it's that line. So to draw a diameter, you basically just have to extend this line, right? So then the diameter is just going to be 2 times the length of the radius. So it's going to be a lot of new words that you'll be learning in this lesson, but make sure you remember the key ones. So the circumference is the perimeter of a circle. The radius is basically a line that's drawn from the center of the circle to the circumference. Okay, so it's this line. Now it doesn't have to be this line, it could be this line as well, right? As long as the line is drawn from the center to the circumference. So there's a lot of radiuses that you can draw. Okay, the diameter, it's the same with the diameter. Diameter is just the line that passes through the center that cuts the circle in half. So I can draw this line as well. As long as the line goes through the diameter, as long as the line goes through the center, it's a diameter. Okay, this is also a diameter, right? So there's also many diameters that you can draw. A sector. A sector is an area cut off by 2 radii. Okay, so the plural of radius is radii. It's not radiuses. Okay, so it's radii. But basically, a sector is an area that's cut off by 2 radii. So this is one radius, this is another radius. So this area is called a sector. I mean, another way you can think of a sector is you can think of like a piece of slice as a sector, right? This is also a sector, but it's a fatter sector, right? Okay. Chord is just an interval. Now, for those of you that don't know what an interval is basically a line, okay? It's a line that joining 2 points on the circumference, but not passing through the center. So if you have 2 points on the circumference, so if I pick this point and that point, and I draw a line, this is called a chord. So this line is called a chord. Okay. This is a chord. This is also a chord. So as long as it joins 2 points on the circumference, then it's called a chord. So this word you won't see that much, but so like I said, the ones that are circled are the important ones: circumference, radius, diameter. Tangent, okay, so this is getting slightly more complex, but a tangent is basically a line that's outside the circle that touches the circumference at only 1 point. So if I draw a line that touches the circle at 1 point, then that's called a tangent. Now, this is a word that you probably won't see much, but you'll see once you're in probably year 10 and onwards, but this line is basically called a tangent. Okay, it's a line that touches the circle at 1 point. So this is this is not a tangent, okay? Because that touches the circle at 2 points. You see? 2 points. So this is not a tangent. This is a tangent because it touches the circle at 1 point. Okay. Minor segment, major segment. Okay, so if you still remember the chord is a line that joins 2 points on the circumference. So once you draw a chord, you actually split the circle into two things. So this area is called a segment. Okay. This area is also called a segment. So an area that's made by one chord. Now the minor segment is basically the one with the smaller area, and the major segment is the one with the bigger the area. Okay. So just to explain again, you have a circle, and if I draw, oops, let me try again. If I draw a circle, and I draw a chord, so a chord is basically a line that joins 2 points on the circumference. Once I draw a chord, it's going to form two areas, right? So then if let me change the color. Oh, okay, I guess it's not going to work. But basically, this is the minor segment because that's the smaller the area, and the major segment is the bigger area. Okay. All right, so let's just do some of these questions. Now, the first question will just test you on these definitions. So let me just go through some just quickly. So D. So what is this point? Well, that's called the center, right? Yeah. And what is F? Well, F drew in this perimeter. So what's the perimeter of a circle? It's a special word for it. It's called a circumference, right? Let's look at the L. Okay, L looks like a piece of slice to me. So that is what? A sector, right? So basically, when you do this question, you probably need to refer to this table over and over again, but once you get the hang of it, I think you'll get most of these terms. Now, there's some of these terms here which you probably won't use much. For example, the tangent, minor segment, major segment, you probably would not use a lot, but you definitely need to know the ones that I circled, which is diameter, radius, and circumference. These three are very important. Okay. Which features of the circle can be seen in the examples below? Oh, look, piece of slice. So you already know what that is, right? I'll let you do the other ones, okay? Because I don't want to ruin the fun for you. Question 3. Name the features shown by these intervals. Now remember, an interval is basically a line, right? So the AB. So what does this line represent? So if you still remember, this is called the radius because it's the line that's drawn from the circumference to the center of the circle, right? So B is the center of the circle. So that's called the radius, the AB. let's look at another one, CD. So this line, if you still remember, so that's called a chord. It's a line that touches 2 points on the circumference, right? This is called a chord. Let's take another look at another one, DB. So what's DB? Okay, DB is that line there. So that's also going to be the radius, right? Because it's a point that goes through the center and it touches the circumference. So DB and AB are basically both called the radius. The next question says, which feature is represented by the shaded region? Now the shaded region, if you still remember, pizza slice. Pizza slice means what? Sector. Right. Okay. Now the next question is going to be a little bit different, but hopefully it should become quite straightforward. Okay, so the question says, what fraction of a circle is represented by the sectors below? So if this angle is 40 degrees, imagine you were trying to eat a whole pizza, right? What part of the whole pizza would this be? So this is 40 degrees, and remember, a full revolution is 360 degrees, right? So if you draw a circle, say you start off here, right? This whole angle, how many degrees is that? That's 360 degrees, right? If it's 360 degrees, that means 40 degrees. The sector will only represent 40 degrees divided by 360 degrees, which is 1/9 of the full circle, right? So then the answer is 1/9. So if you think of it this way, if you ate a pizza slice that's 40 degrees, I mean, I'm not saying you're actually going to measure how many degrees a pizza slice is, but say if you did and it was 40 degrees, that means you ate 1/9 of a pizza. Now, if this is 120 degrees, then it's obviously going to be bigger, right? So this sector will represent 120 divided by 360, which equals to 1/3. So to do it in a calculator, what you can do is just type it in if you can't simplify it in your head. You just type 120 divided by 360 equals, and it simplifies for you. So this is 1/3 of a circle. Okay. So then that's basically all there is to it. Now you can just do all these questions using the same formula, and hopefully there should be no dramas. Alright, so just to recap what we learned today. Today we learned about different parts of a circle. So today's lesson is not going to be the hardest one, because it's just, if anything, it feels more like an English lesson because you're learning about definitions. And like I said, the main ones you have to remember is circumference, which is the perimeter. Radius, which is the line from the center to the circumference. Diameter, which is a line that basically cuts a circle in half. Now, the other ones, try to remember them as well. They're not as important, but some of these are kind of needed. Like, center is pretty important, but I expect you to already know what a center is. These three words are probably going to be new to you because these do not look like your common English words. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you for listening.